Welcome to another in the continuing series of 4-Minute Fridays from TPM. My name is Bruce Harris, and I'm a Senior Technical Solutions Consultant here at TPM. Today our topic is going to be creating pipe spool sheets using assemblies in Revit. So let's get started. Now I'm over here in Revit, and I'm going to switch to a 3D view, and we're going to start to set up our spools. Now, one thing I do want to point out before we get started, it is easier if you go ahead and set up the marks on the particular pipes, because we're going to be using that to tag the pipes. What I'm talking about is the property called a mark. So I've gone ahead and numbered those. It can be any naming or numbering convention that your particular firm uses to tag these particular pipes and fittings for this spool, but I suggest you do that before you create the assembly. So put in the marks before you create the assembly. Now when I select a pipe or even multiple pieces, one of the buttons available to me is going to be this button up here, Create Assemblies. So I'm going to click on Create Assemblies, and I'm going to give it a name of Chill Water Recirculating 001. Now I'm going to edit the assembly, and when I do, oops, it's on another monitor, let me pull it over. When I do, this little button comes up, and I'm going to add objects to that assembly, and I'm going to select all the pieces that are going to be a part of our first spool. Now I could have selected all those pieces to begin with and then gone into assembly there, and it would have made it all. So it's 6 one, half dozen of the other, however you prefer. So notice now that the pipe is color coded. I actually got this idea from another video I saw a few years back on spooling. And basically what we've done here to create that effect is we've created some filters. And I'll go ahead and show you how the filter works. So I've got one SP1 here for my spools, and what it applies to is assemblies, and every time we make assembly it's making a new type name that we gave it. And I've got one that ends with 1, and I've got another one that ends in 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to back to 0, and then it will start again. So 11 will fall under the same category as 1 this way. So that way, in this view, as I am picking the pipes that I'm spooling, I'm not going to miss a segment of pipes that I didn't create a spool for simply because I missed it. So I'm going to see them color coded as I choose them. So when I go over and say make a spool out of this next one here, so let me go to make an assembly, and I'll call it that. And I'm going to edit that assembly, add to it, and add these pieces. And when I do, you can see now it is colored as well. So I thought that was a nice little trick. Now, I'm using just regular Revit piping in this particular thing. Now, I know there's a lot of content out of the box that may not give you the correct pipe lengths. So you need to make sure you're using fittings that are going to give you the correct pipe lengths, either from manufacturers or that you've edited yourself, or you could use the fabrication parts. Now, this over here, if I select it, is one of our fabrication parts. Now I can make spools with my fabrication parts just like I can the regular Revit piping pieces. So I'm going to click on that, make an assembly out of it, and then I'm going to edit it, add to it. Let's grab these pieces right there and finish. And now that is also color coded and is an assembly. Now, as I'm making these different assemblies, they're going to show up down here under my project browser as assemblies. So I'm going to go to this first one, which is this red one over here that we created. Now I'm going to select the first assembly we created, and one of my choices up here is going to be Create Views. So I'm going to select Create Views, and in here I check the different views that I want. And I also can apply a view template to them. This is something that hasn't always been there, so I don't remember exactly which version it was added. But a spool template, or I mean a view template for a spool in the creation process rather than having to apply it after the fact is very convenient. That way um, your spools can already be set up with the view properties that you want. This also applies to your schedules, so the schedules can actually be created with all the fields that you want automatically associated with it. You can even set up a sheet, and I'm going to do an 11 by 17 sheet here. This is the scale, so I'm going to be good with that and go OK. So now I have, under my assemblies, I have the different views that were created. I've got my 3D view, I've got my elevation view, and I've got my different schedules here, my fitting schedule and my pipe schedule. Now I'm going to go to my 3D view, and I am going to tag the individual components. Now, this is something that you need to know a trick, so pay attention on this one. I'm going to go tag by category, and it's correctly telling me I must lock my 3D view. So I'm going to come down here, save orientation and lock, so it will allow me to tag in a 3D view. Now by default, it's going to see the entire assembly and want to tag the entire assembly. Now we don't want to tag the assembly, we want to tag the individual piece of pipe. If you hit your tab key, then I can pick an individual piece of pipe, tab, pick the individual piece of pipe, tab, individual piece of pipe. And now you can do the same thing for your fittings as well. So now I have tagged all my pieces in this view. So now I'm over in my elevation view, and I want to both tag the pipes and dimension them in this view. So once again, I'm going to go to tag by category. Remember, you have to tab to get to it. Do the same over here, tab. Same down here, tab. Now I can also do my fittings the same way. So I'm going to tab to my fitting, select it, and do the same thing for my fitting down here at the bottom. And like I said earlier, maybe I want to put some dimensions on this as well. So I'm going to go here and go from a face to, say, the center line here, center line to center line here, and center line to face down here. Now, you may have different conventions on how you dimension, and if you dimension in the ISO view, it does get a lot more complicated. Um, that we may have to wait for another 4-Minute Friday to get into that, because you're probably going to have to edit the individual pieces and make something that makes it a little bit easier for you to grab the right plane when you're dimensioning an isometric view. So let's say we're happy with this. Now we want to put all these views on a sheet. So now we've got our sheet. First thing I want to do is drag my 3D view out here. And then I want to drag my elevation view out here. Now both of these views, let me go ahead and switch over, and I want them to have no title. So I'll change that to no title. And then I am going to create a pipe schedule on this sheet and a fitting schedule on this sheet. And notice these schedules already are set up exactly the way you want it, with the right parameters in the schedule already. So that's a quick overview on using the Assembly tool to create a spool sheet. Thank you for watching another in our continuing series of 4-Minute Fridays from TPM. Look for us at tpm.com, or you can subscribe to TPM Solutions channel on YouTube. Once again, thank you for watching.